in here in the US, the sex trafficking is heavily groom based. So when I talk about grooming, I assume that most people are familiar with that, but if they're not, it basically means, and this could even be domestic violence, people are groomed all the time, and I feel like women kind of are sort of
Yeah.
innately, unfortunately, growing up. It just kind of means somebody that you trust kind of forms that attachment, and before you know where you're at, because you trust them, and then they keep raising the bar, kind of like, oh, do this for me if you love me, kind of thing, and before you know where you're
Yeah.
at, you're kind of a prostitute basically,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
you're entrenched, they take your credit, your identity.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Grow Healthy, Help People, a podcast that Accordis puts on. I am here today with Jill from Liluye, and I am so excited, Jill, to be talking to you. Tell us where you're calling from.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm calling in from Tucson, Arizona today.
Okay, wonderful. So before we really get into what you guys do, can you tell me a little bit about how you got to running a nonprofit? Is this something you saw yourself doing, or did you have just a whole different plan growing up?
Well, that's an interesting question. I did kind of have a whole different plan growing up. I was really into the arts. It wasn't really cultivated, but I think with my mission and purpose that I'm able to cultivate both, because I always felt very compassionate. I was always very compassionate towards others, so I can kind of marry the compassion with the creativity in my mission.
That's wonderful. That's so cool. So tell me, what does the name Liluye mean? Where did this come from?
I feel very passionate and aligned with the Native American plight, because they're highly targeted by the human traffickers. And so it's actually a Native American word. I think it's Mawakon. It's a tribe out of the eastern side of the US, and it means singing hawk while soaring.
Wow. Okay. It's beautiful. I love it. I love a good creative name because it makes people want to ask about what it is and why, and you get to kind of explain your story. So I love that. So tell us a little bit about the organization and what all you guys do and who you support.
Okay. Liluye is a global collaborative community. We are dedicated to empowering human trafficking survivors, female ones, and through programs and resources, basically, is what we do. So our three pillars are economic empowerment, aftercare, and also prevention.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do those programs work? So if somebody, do you seek out people to help, or do people seek you out generally, or is it kind of a mix of both?
A little bit of both. If you're talking about the team side, not the client side, and we talk about the survivors as clients, because it's a little bit odd, but they are technically clients. So to find it's all pro bono at the moment, because we're unfunded. So we have about 18 volunteers, and I find them mostly on LinkedIn job posts.
That's awesome that people are like willing to put in their time and effort and energy though into helping. So with human trafficking, I know as someone who doesn't know a ton because it's not something I've spent a lot of time getting involved in. So looking from the outside, we kind of have one idea of what human trafficking is. And, generally when I think about it, I think people being taken and shipped to different countries. And, so kind of tell me a little bit about the way we think about human trafficking versus what it actually looks like.
Sure. There are several different forms of human trafficking, and also in every country it sort of looks different. And here in the US, the sex trafficking is heavily groom based. So when I talk about grooming, I assume that most people are familiar with that, but if they're not, it basically means, and this could even be domestic violence, people are groomed all the time, and I feel like women kind of are sort of innately, unfortunately, growing up. It just kind of means somebody that you trust kind of forms that attachment, and before you know where you're at, because you trust them, and then they keep raising the bar, kind of like, oh, do this for me if you love me, kind of thing, and before you know where you're at, you're kind of a prostitute basically, and then you're entrenched, they take your credit, your identity, and then you have to, and sometimes a lot of times people don't even call it, they're like, that was my choice, I'm not trafficked, so they don't, there's not even awareness, because it's so entrenched like in their belief system. And super smart people, it's just anybody basically. Well, to clarify though too, because a lot of them are already groomed in childhood, like even their familial trafficking is becoming more well known now because it is a thing that people don't talk about. It's taboo. And so they could have been groomed or even sold as a child into child trafficking. So yeah, it's a huge problem that people generally don't know about and kind of think of it's a third world problem. And there we support sex and labor trafficking survivors. That's what we focus on. But there's also organ trafficking and child marriage. There's a lot of different forms of trafficking basically. So our partners, we have 60 partners. And so like in Africa, like, for example, it may look very different. There's a lot of false job promises. So falls more under labor trafficking, but quite honestly, they can also be labor and sex trafficked to usually going to the Middle East. So yeah.
My goodness. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know if I would have thought through all of that before, which is why I like learning about it because there's so much we don't know until we have somebody explain it to us. So when you have someone come to you and they're seeking assistance and how do you walk with them through? I'm assuming that you're working with them as they've come out of a trafficking situation, or do you see people that are actively trying to get out of a situation? How does
So we
that?
don't focus on the rescue and recovery. Our
Okay.
demographic is more from like 25 to like 55 plus.
Okay.
And so our programs focus on those people that have been out of the life about 3 to 5 years. So they're hopefully less in like survival mode, which it can stay with them for a very long time, and they need a lot of healing and starts with kind of therapy, but also we look at alternative modes of therapy really helping them, like EMDR. I don't know if you're familiar with any of those kinds of somatic healing, yoga, whatever helps basically. So that's kind of where we're looking at those people, helping them kind of like with the mental aspect, the financial aspect, and really aftercare opportunities that will help them holistically heal, because it's a whole thing. It's a whole ball of wax. It's not like, hey, you're rescued, you're done now. I think that's kind of like a fallacy that a lot of people think, like they're rescued. Well, yeah, now the real work begins, and hopefully they aren't re-trafficked, because it's really hard, because the
Right.
traffickers will hardcore come back after them, and they can and will be.
Really?
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. So.
Wow. Yeah, I did not realize that. So when they're with you guys, do people generally have any family support, or are most of them lacking any support at all?
I would say it depends on each individual case. I think, unfortunately, with a lot of survivors that I've seen, it's kind of half and half. I think some have come from a pretty tumultuous childhood and they're kind of like, not feeling it kind of thing. So, or they don't want to see it. Or we recently had a survivor in our financial literacy class that she was an RN and she was like 30, and her husband was grooming her, and he was actually a policeman. But anyway, that was a horrible story. But amazingly enough, she'd been out of the life only like 6 months to a year, and she was very anxious, but she was very lucid. She wasn't like totally in survival mode, like completely scattered. She was pretty amazing state mentally, but her family like cut her off. No Facebook, nothing. They're gone. And I'm like, dang, that's hardcore. I don't know how often that happens, but I would like to think they have more support, but then they kind of can't. It's a taboo topic, so it's not like something they can address. It's like, yeah, that's something that happened, kind of thing. That's what I kind of feel like. Yeah.
Really sad that they don't have those people they can talk to openly about it because
Right.
it's so taboo. Yeah. Oh man. So you said you have different partnerships all over the world. This is not just US. About how many countries do you operate? Do you have support in?
I think I'm currently partnering with 19 different countries.
Wow. That's amazing. And they offer, so you mentioned financial literacy classes. So you're kind of aiming to help them since they're past that survival mode, just how to live their everyday life and build these skills to help them keep going, because it's obviously like a lifelong process. It's not something they're probably ever going to fully recover from. It's like a take it every day by day kind of thing.
Yeah. And I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, the trauma is a big thing to overcome for sure. They have to like learn. They have trust challenges for obvious reasons, or maybe not obvious, but So they have to overcome that, and then there's just several layers of things that they sort of need to overcome. So the last financial literacy program, we had two facilitators, one kind of focusing on the more like financial, like the logical, like things like the credit, the taxes, investments. But then we also had our CEO, Monica Griffin. She is very she's done a lot of behavioral health, but also is healing herself, as well as has healed quite a few other, have helped people in their survivors in their healing journeys. So I think it was a very strong synergy there to help on both sides of that, and we had some very good conversations. And what I mean by get good, I mean heavy but really deep things that need to be talked about, that aren't, they don't necessarily, those platforms are kind of rare. So I'd like to really cultivate that and have more and more of those conversations where they're healing their credit and whatever financial things they need to handle, but also the healing aspect around money. Because yeah, if their credit's taken, you don't trust people. You know, you're living in survival mode because a lot of them are in debt. I mean, so you've got several things you're basically trying to address at the same time, and we offered mentoring for them after that as well, which has been helping them.
Yeah, absolutely. So is this something where they go through the programs and there's kind of like a time where they kind of graduate what you guys are doing, or do they have the opportunity to come back as often as they need and get resources from you?
For this particular program, the financial literacy, they did graduate, but
Yeah.
we would allow them to come back if they
Oh
felt
yeah.
that would help them for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you see you guys so how long, let me ask you, how long have you guys been operating?
For 8 years.
8 years. So where do you see it going? Do you have bigger plans for the future, or do you kind of like where you guys are and how you're running, or do you see a certain amount of growth? What do you see for the future?
Well, unfortunately, we got our first grant last summer, and the funds are kind of depleting for that. So it's basically fund based. So we really need funding to realize my full dream. My full dream and vision was to make as much impact possible, to make safe havens worldwide where women are safe, empowered, healed, and heard. That's my overarching vision for helping women to rehabilitate, reintegrate back into society, but really to heal. Because as I get more entrenched in this deeply challenging issue that resonates with me a lot, I just feel like we're just kind of glossing over the surface, and because funding has been cut so severely, in the U.S. and really globally, it's really hard to tackle those issues. And of course, the traffickers it's rampant. You know, it's really sad. If we really look at the statistics, it's really problematic. But my vision is to create, we also have a Thrive Tribe that we had the first cohort a couple years ago. It's a personal coaching and development program, which helps them with their careers or anything personally, mentoring and that kind of thing. And we really want to create more cohorts of those as well, because there's a real need for them to heal and to help them career-wise. A lot of them have entrepreneurial visions for themselves and missions, and we really want to cultivate that. I think that there needs to be more opportunities for them to do that. So I would like to offer more economic development opportunities for them, even training. That would be really, really ideal for me, because they need the income and they need the financial independence. So that would be ideal for me to offer that. And also art to healing programs, mentoring program, like a
Mhm.
full-fledged mentoring program, because there's
Oh
really a
yeah.
need for that as well. But anyway, I have a lot of
Yeah.
ideas, but
I
that
love
was,
that. No, I mean, yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. Because really, I mean, the only way to continue to grow is to keep having these like new, fresh ideas on how you can help and how you can serve them. So I think it's wonderful. So, is there a time? Can you take me back? Like, it. What was it that really got you so passionate about this? Was there a story you heard, or just you knew this was happening in the world and you felt like there could be more? Like, what was it that drove you to start this?
Well, it kind of goes back to my own tumultuous background in my childhood. I wasn't trafficked, but it wasn't stellar. It was dysfunctional. And I kind of see myself like I could easily have been groomed, because I was so vulnerable. And that's what traffickers really prey on. Like, and there's so much child trafficking now too. So we have a foster care daughter ourselves, and why I bring that up is because they're ultra vulnerable to kind of trafficking, because they're just looking for somebody to kind of cling to that they can trust and that will raise them up. And but you hear that too when adults they're being trafficked. So if you haven't healed from that, it's a continuous kind of thing. phenomenon. And so, to answer your question, that's been going on. So I always wanted, as an INFJ, I've always wanted to make a difference. So I was kind of used to making other people's dreams come true, as you kind of do. I think Americans are very like driven to make more money, and you kind of get caught up in that career aspect rather than, and you kind of lose yourself very quickly in your dream. And I was kind of like, got to my mid 30s. I'm like, I'm really not fulfilled. I went back for a master's in my 20s. So I have a master's in publications design, and I love that. And I wanted to work in fashion. So I kind of graded my job in one of the, in a hat company. And I was living in San Diego County at the time. That was fulfilling, but I still was like, I'm still making this person's dream a reality, not my own. And I was kind of like, I started volunteering a little bit, but then my husband and I decided to move to Spain. And that's like, okay, this is where I'm going to make a difference, because I'm going to shift to making my own dreams a reality. At the kind of the same time, a couple years before that, I started following worldpulse.org. It's a global sisterhood for women and also advocates for women. It's a whole global organizations for grassroots organizations, people doing phenomenal work. And that's really what changed my paradigm for my life, basically, because I was like, okay, these people are doing what I want to do, like real change, real impact. And so I started following them, and I started mentoring people on the website. And then I saw a couple of posts about trafficking, and it really resonated with the trauma and abuse that I had, but to the extreme level. And I can't imagine a more traumatic thing ever in anybody's life than to overcome something like this. So it really resonated for me. I thought I can make an impact, and I can work with some of the women that are in the World Pulse forum, and we can like collaborate. So that's really how Liluye started.
Yeah. Wow, that's an incredible story. I love that, it always makes such a huge impact in your life, but also in the people that hear your stories life, to kind of see the why behind you, why you do what you do, and just to hear that vision come to life. And yeah, it's really inspiring. And I think people should be able to take that story and say, you know what, if there's something I'm passionate about, I just need to go after it and do it and fulfill their dreams that they have. So I love that story. So you mentioned financially, like that's a big challenge for you because it's really hard for everybody right now for a lot of organizations. And are there any other big challenges that you face just running an organization?
I would say support, because it can be like a really lonely road. And it's hard because I'm non-funded to compensate the survivors. And Liluye is survivor led, but it can become a re-exploitation issue if you can't fund them. And so I was finally able to fund my CEO last year, but now she's decided to pursue a legal degree. But I feel kind of like a failure, basically, because I'm like, if I had the funding, maybe I could have kept her, and we could maybe making more impact. So I would say that that's a huge obstacle, like just to get, and I'm constantly having to rehire for social media, because we have that's one of the things that we do is bring more awareness around Liluye and the cause, is on LinkedIn and Facebook and on Instagram. So we do daily posts about that, but it's hard to keep people committed in those positions. So I always make it mandatory, like, please stay with me a year so I don't have to keep onboarding. And it's been pretty good. And I've actually had people now that are actually staying beyond the year, which to me is validating, or, is impressive to me to do that. So to be in that position, I guess. So I think that that's one of the biggest challenges, though, to get committed people, and also to keep fueling your own mission when you don't have the support, because it can be a very
Mhm.
lonely journey to be like, what
Yes.
is my why? You have to keep reminding myself,
You have
am
to
I
tell
making the
yourself, yes.
impact, and
Right.
what is my why? Because otherwise you
Yep.
lose that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, if you're watching this and you're a nonprofit leader, as she mentioned, there are so many times where organizations struggle to keep people. And that is something that Aquarius can really step in and help with. We have a whole team dedicated to taking care of needs like social media and marketing and web development. And we can do that for you. And we want to step in and be that helpful source on the back end. So if that's something that you need or that you're looking for, our website will be at the end of this episode. You can reach out to us anytime, and we would love to help you. But I love what you said just now, because I ran a nonprofit for 10 years that I started, and that was something, after you've been doing it so long, you do have to constantly remind yourself of why you do what you do, because it's so easy to get burnt out and just say, what am I even making a difference? Am I even doing anything? And so you have to constantly remind yourself of that. So true. Yeah. So how can people help you? I know, is there a way, of course they can support you financially. And I'm assuming they can go on your website and do that. Awesome. And so is there a way they can support you physically where you're at? Is how can they help?
Well, because I'm relatively new to the Tucson area, I don't have a lot of connections that are in the same sector. So I could use more connections related to that so we can work together to address human trafficking. And I really, like I said previously, really passionate about the indigenous people. So I do have somebody on my global advisory committee that is indigenous, and I have quite a big network of indigenous people. But if I could find specific resources or connections and build the network so we can create a financial literacy, the next cohort for them, that would be really cool. Or if somebody's interested in volunteering for social media, I could use some research and evaluation people to make some impact reports so my grant applications are stronger. I would say that those are the biggest needs: the grant writer, somebody to create a marketing video, those kind of things, and
Yeah,
research and
absolutely.
evaluation to create like a program that's going to be tracking what we're doing more. Because
Yeah,
it's hard for me to
absolutely.
be doing those everyday tasks like that when I'm
You can't do
doing so
everything.
many. Exactly.
Right. Yes. You can't do everything. And guys, I encourage you. We're also going to have her link up at the end of this website show. Please check them out. And if you're in the area, find a way to get involved with them. If you're not, check out their social media pages, share what they're doing, get invested in their mission, and give to them financially, because what they're doing is so important. And I know that they could really use your support. So make sure to check them out and see what they're doing. Jill, I've really enjoyed talking to you today, and I appreciate you taking the time to really share your vision and your why to everybody. And I really enjoyed learning about everything that you guys do.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate the
absolutely.
opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we will see you next time.